And moreover, one more thing I want to tell, you know about the history of this department on the field of X-ray research. I am showing the slide, please go on through this. Basically, the field is small angle X-ray scattering. It starts in the year 1962, right. Institute starts in 61 and the field of research in the small angle X-ray scattering starts in 62, and the first PhD is awarded in the year 1969, and this is a golden jubilee year we are going to celebrate. 69-70 is the first PhD in that field from this department, and this is completing 50th year now, and this year is the golden jubilee year in that field of research particularly. And the MSc started in 62, and there was a special paper at that time, X-ray, and I have this specialization X-ray, and I did my MSc from this in the year 1984 and completed my PhD from the same department in 91 in the field of small angle X-ray scattering, right. So, I am the 8th candidate in that field to complete PhD. More than above, before that 7 more PhDs are awarded, and the first PhD is awarded in the year 1969, 69-70, submitted in 69, awarded in 70. Actually, that is why I have selected the topic characterization of materials at nanometer scale length relevant to that field of research, and I selected that topic to be delivered anywhere I am going nowadays to present, to know what is the importance of that field and what is done in our department. And this talk starts from, you can tell the last visit of my foreign trip, that is to Austria, from where that field is originated in world, and then came to our department, and India, it was the only center from where this type of research was started in 1962, right. So, the conference was there, and I selected the same topic to let the people know what kind of research is going on in this department, from where it was started in India, and it was in 25th, 26th of September 2019. It is Graz Technical University, Austria, and from then onwards, wherever I am going as an invited speaker, I put the same topic, just to know the people what kind of research work is going on in this department. So, that is why the name of the talk I have put at characterization of material at nanometer scale length, a SAC study, right. So, the next. So, these are the plans I do not want to show, but let me take you the history, that is why. So, these are the PhD degrees awarded in the field of small angle scattering from this department. You see, the first PhD, Dr. B.C. Panda, under the supervision of Professor T. Ratha HOD and professor who brought the camera, after doing PhD from the same institute to which I visited recently, that is the Graz Technical University, Austria, and he worked with the Kratky, who is the, you can tell, the master of that field of research at the world level. And after completing his PhD, Professor Ratha brought the camera from there and started research work here. And from 62 onwards, the research is going on in that field, and the first PhD is awarded in the year 1969. 69 means actually this is not awarded, the year is 70, 69 submitted, awarded 70. Then my name is in 8th, awarded in 91, right. But I did the MSc from the same department also in the year 1984 with specialization in X-ray. There was 2 specializations at that time, X-ray and electronics. So, these are the little bit history, and if you took the view of this slide, lot many things are coming to your mind so far as the length scale order is concerned. Why that length scale is so important, and what is the role of the SACS research in that way. You see, look this, if you think about the scale started from 0.1 nanometer to 100 micron, right. It starts from 0.1 nanometer and goes up to 100 micron. The distances or the length scales are resolved by various instruments that we are using nowadays. For example, electron microscope covers the distance from 0.1 nanometer till 100 micron, but light microscope does not cover that, but it starts from 100 nanometer till 1 meter, 1 nanometer or millimeter, last one is millimeter, right. And then now see, cover the, think about the length scale of different objects, atom 0.1 nanometer, right? Then comes to lipid, proteins, small molecules proteins, that comes around 10 nanometer. Then goes to T2 phase, again another kind of biological system, T2 phase, that is going up to 100 nanometer. Then chloroplast in plant component, which comes to 1 micrometer. Then goes to bacteria up to 10 micrometer. Then goes to plant and animal cells up to 100 micrometer. In that way, if you proceed, you see this is the scale. Our height is going to 1 meter, starts from atom 0.1 nanometer and it covers up to 1 meter, and out of which all are not visible to us. Only visible to us is up to which one? You can see the chicken egg, and you can see also the frog egg, right? But below that it is not possible to visualize, because this visible radiation will not help you to collect information at that order length. So, you can see only up to 1 millimeter, because the resolving power of our eye is 1 millimeter, maybe a little bit small, but beyond that our eye cannot resolve any that order length with the help of visible radiation. And there are many objects below that which are very important to know, starting from atom till bacteria, virus, protein, cellulose, many. You should have to understand the structure at that order length. And for that only we are learning this technique by which you can evaluate that kind of structures at atomic and molecular level, starting from atom till bacteria, virus. Every length order is covered there itself, right. So, that is why electron microscopy covers up to this, and light microscopy covers up to 1 millimeter, and the naked eye can cover from 100 micron to 1 meter. With the help of naked eye you can see all those length orders, and that is why length order is very important so far as science is concerned, right. It covers every science, not necessarily physics, chemistry, life science, as science, all sciences deals with this length scale order. And basically I want to tell few important things that you should know. You might have know about the microscopy. Microscopy means it is a device which will magnify the dimension of the object. May it be with the visible light. If it is visible light, it is optical microscope. If it is with the help of electron beam, then it is electron microscope. But anyway we are magnifying, right. The purpose of a microscope is to magnify the object dimension. But when you tell that magnification, that plays very important role, you cannot magnify to any extent by any instrument, right. May it be optical, may it be electron microscope, that there is some limit. We cannot magnify to any scale that we need, because once you magnify the image, obviously the resolution goes down. Magnification is inversely proportional to the resolution. So, simultaneously you have to see both magnification and resolution. If you will magnify, resolution goes down. So, ultimately we are not able to collect the proper information with the help of that kind of image. Then what is the necessity of going for that kind of microscopy? So, when you are magnifying, simultaneously you have to look after whether the resolution is good for visualize or not. If yes, then you should, otherwise you should not. That is why you cannot magnify the image to any extent with the help of either optical microscope or electron microscope, whatever it may be. So, and the another question is, when you are magnifying it, the length order scale is also again important, right. Length order scale is again important, considering both magnification and resolution. Then now the question is, when you are magnifying, what do you mean by an image? In general, what is an image? What do you mean by imaging? If there is an object, source is there, may it be visible, invisible, does not matter, and if there is an object and that object is absorbing some radiation which is incidented on that, then you will get an image on the other side, right. Here is a source, here is an object. If this object is absorbing the radiation that are falling on it, may it be completely or partially, then there is chance of getting image on the other side, right. Then when what kind of radiation you are using, depending on that you are getting the images. So, when that image is coming into mind, then ultimately what do you mean by image? It is nothing but the intensity distribution. For example, when light falls on it, I will have a image, anybody, any object will have an image, and when you analyze the image, what it will tell? It is nothing but the distribution of intensity, because intensity varies from part to part. The photography, what do you mean by photography? It is also imaging. So, when you see the intensity of a photograph, may it be colored or black and white, what is the variation there? The variation is only intensity. From point to point in the photograph, the intensity varies, and that is an imaging. So, in imaging is relevant to intensity of the source used for the purpose, right. It depends on the source intensity. So, depending on the source intensity, you are getting an image, and like that electron microscopy is also an image, right. This is also an image. So, image is nothing but the distribution of intensity from where you are collecting the information about an object. Now, if you come to this side, the other side is called as the scattering, right. Scattering versus imaging, where is the difference and which is important? You see, both the cases you are collecting information at smaller scale length order, right. May it be electron microscopy, SEM, TEM or scattering experiment. Purpose is same. Our purpose is to find out the smaller order length which is never visible to us with the help of some radiation source. If it is microscopy, electron microscopy, then it is not radiation, rather electron wave, right. With the help of electron wave, there will be electron diffraction, and it gives the image that we are telling that either it is SEM to scan the surface or it is TEM to see inside the material. That is the only difference, but it is an image. It is nothing but the distribution of intensity with respect to the source intensity, right. Source intensity is again relevant with the electron beam energy, wavelength, de Broglie wavelength associated with the electrons that goes for the diffraction and give the images. But then at the same time, when you look up to the scattering, scattering means I told you it is relevant with the dimension of the object and the wavelength of the radiation used. When the wavelength of radiation used is very, very large in comparison to the dimension that you want to see, then there is the scattering, right. That is called as the scattering process. But the question is, when you think about the scattering process, it is direct or indirect? How you are collecting information from this image? Microscopy, it is direct information, right. You are seeing what is there on the surface if it is SEM, or what is there inside the material if it is TEM. You are looking the surface, how it looks like, and the information that you are collecting from the microscopy are direct. That is why it is direct information. But when you think about the scattering, it is indirect. Here also it gives the similar information, but it is indirect technique, and that is the reason why most of the people does not prefer to go for scattering or diffraction, although it is much better in comparison to microscope, so far as the average dimension is concerned, right. If you go for the statistical average dimension of the length order in any material, then the best one is the scattering or diffraction, cannot be microscopy, may it be SEM or TEM. And the reason is very clear, because when you are getting an image from the electron microscopy, what it happens, the electron beam comes and you are taking a sample and it falls on it, then diffraction takes place and gives the image. But when that image is coming, is it from the whole sample or from a point? It is only from a point, right. But you do not know at this point whatever material is there neighboring to that, whether it is there or not. If you scan the sample at one point, it may not be having same material in the neighboring point. So, if you are taking a sample of dimension 1 millimeter to another millimeter, then it should be scanned 1000, not less than 1000 times to get the average dimension. The statistical average dimension that you are collecting from this microscopy should be at least 1000 times, but is it feasible to do that 1000 times scanning with the help of electron microscopy, may it be TEM or SEM? It is never feasible by anybody. Maximum people are going up to 5-10 times and telling that this is the average dimension of the object or that molecular arrangement, atomic arrangement, whatever it may be. Then how it is averaging? How the statistical averaging is good in case of microscopy? May it be TEM, may it be SEM, same thing. If you are taking, if you scan the sample at 1000 points, then the averaging will be better. But nobody does that. Maximum they scan for 1 point, 2 point, 3 point, 4 point, 5 point. then how can you tell that the whole material is same? May not be same. The sample is dimension of 1 millimeter to 1 millimeter, and the electron beam is micron order, even less than that order, right. It is coming and incidenting on the surface which is of less than micron order. So, at 1 micron order length, how can you see the whole object, whole sample, if it is scanned once? It is not feasible and should not be acceptable that this is the average dimension of an object on the surface or inside the material. But if you think about the scattering process, what happened? There is a object, right? The source is there, it goes and interact with this object, then whatever scattering intensity is coming there on the other side, it is because of the whole system exposed. It is not by part. The whole system is exposed with the source radiation, right. The scattering process collect the information from the whole system at a time, at a stretch, in terms of intensity, right. So, the scattering intensity or diffraction intensity, whatever is coming to the other side, is containing much more better information so far as the length order scale is concerned within the material. But the question is, it is also intensity, this is also intensity, right, and the intensity varies with respect to a quantity that is called as either 2 theta in case of diffraction that you know, or in terms of this q, scattering factor. Same thing, scattering factor or 2 theta are similar. It is only the matter in what scale you want to express it, right. Q can be expressed in terms of 2 theta as the case of XRD. XRD is generally expressed in terms of 2 theta, but you can express it in terms of q, and this q is nothing but equal to 4 pi sin theta divided by lambda, and 4 pi sin theta divided by lambda means this q is not in real space. That is the main question, right. You are writing 2 theta in terms of q, scattering factor, whose expression is 4 pi sin theta divided by lambda. Then that q is in which space then? Reciprocal space, right. The scattering factor is in reciprocal space, and in reality all diffraction and all scattering processes are having the intensity not in real space, never in real space, all the time in reciprocal space, and that is why it is indirect technique, right. That is why it is indirect technique, but it carries all the information, that you need, but it is very difficult to analyze unless you have the expertise. Otherwise, it carries all the information that you need from here. So, this is direct technique, this is indirect technique, and the averaging like here is much better in comparison to microscopy, much better and reliable. But the problem is that people are not going for this because it is a technique which requires to learn a lot. You have to learn, otherwise you can never analyze the data, and if you are not analyzing the data, you can never collect the proper information that you need. But here nothing, you just see the picture and find out how much is the length or the dimension of the object. There is a difference between direct and indirect technique. So, scattering and diffractions are indirect techniques to collect the information, but microscopy is the direct technique, and people prefer direct because everything is easy. Once it is direct, everything is easy. But when it is indirect, although it is much more better, people are not going to learn it. That is the only difficulty. Otherwise, if you are learning this technique properly, then it is no doubt much better in comparison to microscopy, much better, because the average dimension that you can establish from the scattering or diffraction process is no doubt better than microscopy, right. So, that is the difference basically why people are not bothering about scattering and diffraction, but bothers about microscopy, because it is direct technique, that is indirect technique, that is the only difference, and once indirect, expertise requires, otherwise you cannot analyze the data to collect the information, that is the only difficulty, right. Anyone cannot analyze the data to give you the information about the structure, you should have that much of expertise to analyze the data, to collect the information about the structure at that length order, whatever it may be at nano order length, micrometer length, whatever length, right. Like that, when you simply tell when you are doing the grating experiment, the intensity distribution is in direct or indirect technique. That will explain you why I am telling this. You might have done the grating experiment, right? Diffraction. But is it giving you the direct information to tell how many number of lines are there per unit length? No, never. It cannot. It cannot. So, not only that diffraction, any diffraction, may it be XRD, may it be any diffraction with any source, electron diffraction, neutron diffraction, any diffraction is never direct. Similarly, the scattering is never direct, right. The diffraction, scattering experiments are all the time indirect techniques, but they carry the information about the material that you want to see. Whereas, this imaging, electron microscopy is a direct technique, and you know the difference then which is better and which is not good, right. So, you have to decide where to go. Ultimately, you are going to collect the information about various length orders that is important for us. Why we are going for that length order? Otherwise, you cannot explain why the material is behaving in this way or that way. That is why. But if that information you are collecting is not proper, then you cannot able to explain proper properties, proper structure and property relation. Hence, you cannot characterize it properly. Therefore, the length order plays very important role, and hence the technique that you have to select is very, very important, very, very important. Right? What technique you will use to collect the information at that order length? And that is the reason why you should have to know what is the difference because you see here is intensity, there is also intensity, right. Here also there is intensity distribution, here also there is intensity distribution, but this intensity distribution is in reciprocal space. This intensity distribution is in reciprocal space and it carries all the information. And remember one thing, may it be image, may it be scattering intensity, right. This is also intensity, that is also intensity, and all intensities are carriers of informations. Do not forget it, all intensities are carriers of informations. If you need intensity information, you have to analyze the intensity, nothing else, right. All intensities are the carriers of information. That means it carries the information about the structure. So, if you are not able to analyze the intensity, you are not able to understand the structure. Therefore, intensity plays very important role, very, very important role. And the reason again is that when you tell about diffraction or scattering, what happens there? Suppose there is a source and there is a system to be analyzed, then you are collecting scattering data or the diffraction data, right. That is the experimental setup. There must be a probe, source, then this object, and there is a detector. Detector will detect the scattering or diffraction data, right. Here this side there is a source. So, when it comes, like for example, if you think about the grating that you have done in either the +2 or +3 level, then what happens there for the intensity of diffraction pattern? Is it same intensity as that of the source? Cannot. First order intensity is smaller than the direct intensity, second order is still smaller if it is not able to see the third and fourth orders, right. The intensity of the direct beam is very intense, but when you go to first order drastically reduces, second order still smaller, right. And the same thing happens in scattering also. So, now this diffraction intensity or this diffraction scattering intensity carries the information, but they are extremely small values. So, that is the reason why if the intensity of the scattered radiation or the diffracted radiations are not good enough, then it will be difficult to analyze the structure, because they carry the information. They carry the information about the structure, the scattering intensity or the diffraction intensity. That is the reason why unless the source is a powerful source, it is very difficult to get good scattering and diffraction intensity, because if the source is not weak, then automatically the scattering intensity is weak, and weak means you are losing some informations, right. Once the intensity is not proper, you are losing the information about the structure. Therefore, you should have to see whether the source is a powerful source to give proper intensity, from where I can collect the relevant structure. And that is the reason why people are now preferring to go for synchrotron radiations. Right? The laboratory source of X-ray is very weak in comparison to synchrotron radiations. Synchrotron also gives X-ray, right? Synchrotron source also gives us X-ray, but the X-ray that is produced from synchrotron is maybe lakh times superior than the laboratory source. The intensity is extremely high, extremely high. The photons are much more energetic in case of synchrotron with respect to the laboratory system. So, when you are doing an experiment with laboratory system, same small angle scattering or diffraction, then obviously it is never be similar or comparable when you are doing the same experiment with synchrotron source, right? Because synchrotron source is a very powerful source, energetic photons are there, and obviously the intensity coming to diffraction or scattering pattern is much better, and hence carries better information than that of the laboratory system. And that is the reason why people are preferring nowadays go for the synchrotron radiation. But unfortunately, in India we are having only one, that is at Indus 2, Indore, under Department of Atomic Energy. But still yet now they are not arriving or reaching to small angle X scattering region, right? They are not achieving till that. The intensity that they are going are not proper to explain. They are trying how to improve it so that it will be comparable with the world level. So, people from India usually goes abroad if they are interested for synchrotron facility, right? That is the main difference. If the intensity is not good, then your scattering is not good. The intensity is not good. If the intensity is not good, then you are losing the information, right? You are doing it to get information, but if the intensity is not good, you are losing the information. Then what is the purpose of doing the research? Right? The purpose is to collect the information, but unless the intensity is good, scattering or diffraction, you cannot collect the information properly. And that is the reason why you should have to select a powerful source, and the powerful source is best available in our world is the synchrotron radiation. And that is the basic difference why the people are interested for this synchrotron radiation and X-ray. Very important is the length scale order with respect to the X-ray wavelength. The X-ray wavelength starts from 0.01 nanometer to 10 nanometer, that order length. So, any object with diffraction phenomena can reach at that order length, right? With X-ray diffraction you can reach at that order length, because you can select your wavelength starting from 0.01 nanometer to 10 nanometer. Which order length you want to do? Which one length order you want to see? You want to see atom, you want to see molecule, you want to see macromolecule, or what? Any length order, and it can be done with the help of X-ray, because the X-ray wavelength starts from 0.01 nanometer, covers till 10 nanometer. So, nanomaterials can be well characterized, because it starts from 1 to 100 nanometer. Once you are telling nanomaterial, nanoscience, nanotechnology, the length order is lying between 1 to 100, right. So, from 1 to 10 it is well characterized with the help of X-ray. From there also you can learn science, that is nanoscience, and hence the nanotechnology. So, that order length is very important. What order length you want to see to learn science? So, in that respect you should have to know what kind of radiation you are using and what kind of phenomena you are using, whether it is diffraction or scattering, how you will collect the information about the structure, right. Three are all important. What do you mean by why you are doing experiment? First question is why you are doing any experiment? What is the purpose? To learn something which will help you in future. That is the main motto, main purpose of doing any experiment at any level, right. At any level you are doing the experiment so that you will learn how to proceed further in your higher studies. So, when you are doing any experiment, the three things are very important, whatever experiment it may be. I told you that one is the source, that is the probe, second is the object with which you are dealing or studying, and third is the detector. Three things are very much essential for any experiment, may it be from electromagnetism, may it be for diffraction or optics, maybe for thermal, anything. There must be a source, there must be a detector and object that you want to analyze everywhere, right. So, there is a source, probe, there is a detector, and in between you are putting the object which you have to study. What kind of object you want to study, which property, whether it is thermal property, electrical property, optical property, what property you want. Accordingly, you have to select your source and detector, right. But these are must for any experiment. For any experiment, you have to decide what is the source and what is the detector, and they must be compatible, right. Means any source cannot be used for any detector. If it is visible, I can tell I is the detector, but for X-ray, I is not compatible, I cannot detect X-ray. So, there should be an X-ray detector, right. So, the source and detector must be compatible with each other, otherwise you cannot collect the reliable data, right. The experimental data is not reliable unless the source and the detector are compatible. So, if there is X-ray source, there must be an X-ray detector, but if there is visible source, God given detector is with us, that is the eye, right. So, the source and detector are very important for any experiment. What kind of source you are using and what kind of detector you are using. If they are not compatible, then you are not collecting reliable data, and once it is not reliable, your result will be never be believable, right. Your results should not be acceptable. Then in that sense, if you tell, then if you go for, I do not want to see further because it may not be that much. Yes, this is a example of scattering method, and these are few things that we will tell you later. This is about the protein structure. These are the plots from where the information is collected. This is the system. The small angle exosskeleton system is like this, but again these are few protein lipid structures resolved by small angle exoscattering. Yes, this is the synchrotron, that is NSLS2, that is at Brookhaven National Laboratory, New York, where I am generally going for my data collection. I have collaboration at that lab and I am going to collect the data if it is required for me, right. It is there in New York, and the beam line there used is X9, that is for small angle exoscattering. And this is relevant to my PhD topic, cellulose structure that I resolved in my PhD problem, and of course, it is not relevant to only cotton cellulose, but I deal with 3 different kinds of cellulose, one in jute, another sisal, because jute being a stem fiber, sisal being a leaf fiber, and cotton being a flower, from 3 different regions of the plant, but all are cellulosic, right. And analyze the data, but my PhD problem is only dealing with cotton, rest I did later on and compared. You see the result, the structure of cellulose is like this, the model. The model, that is the crystalline region, amorphous region, void region, 3 regions are there, or 3 phases are there, crystalline, amorphous, void. So, this part is the crystalline region and this is the amorphous part, and in between amorphous, 2 amorphous, there is another part called as the void, just like the gap in between 2 pages. If page is the matter, then in between 2 pages there is some gap, that gap is the void, and this is a lamellar structure that is happening in cellulose, right. So, this crystalline part and the amorphous part, since the electron density is important for scattering experiment, if the electron density contrast is not good, then it can never be a good scatterer. There the electron density difference between matter and amorphous phases are not that much. So, you can treat this as a single phase, that is the matter phase, right? The electron density contrast between crystalline amorphous phase, because both are cellulose. Here is cellulose, there is cellulose. So, if you go for electron density which is responsible for scattering is not that good. Therefore, you are not getting better scattering intensity if you take a crystalline region and amorphous region. But when you go from crystalline to void region, there is a large difference, contrast is very good. So, in that way these two are combined together as matter phase and the rest is the void phase. 3 phase is reduced to 2 phase, matter and void, and they are alternatively arranged. And you see, this is the periodicity. What is the periodicity D? It is not like the crystal periodicity. This is the periodicity that is happening in case of cellulose macromolecules arrangement, and this order goes to colloidal dimension 1000 angstrom. So, how can it be resolved by XRD? Impossible. XRD can only resolve up to 1 nanometer, not beyond that, right. XRD can resolve maximum up to 1 nanometer, but if it is more than 1 nanometer, no chance. So, you have to come back for this kind of technique, which is small angle X-ray scattering, because here length order are going much above 1 nanometer. So, if that much length order is required, then one has to go for this kind of technique, which is small angle X-ray scattering, right. And these are the pattern intensity from where I collected the intensity data, results, and now you see here, yes, it is comparison, brief comparison, not detail, right. You see 3 different fibers, jute, sisal and cotton, all are cellulosic, and the structural arrangement tells that the periodicity that I told D how varies in nanometer, all are in nanometer, right. So, here it is 61.6 for sisal, 91.1, but for cotton it is 51.7. All are cellulosic, but still structure is different. Then if you go for this specific surface area, which is again important for nanoscience, because once you are let us think about a sphere. What is the surface of a sphere? 4 pi r square, volume 4 by 3 pi r cube. Then what is surface to volume ratio of a sphere? 3 by r, right, 3 by r. So, when you go to nano order, then what will happen? R is more or less? R is less. So, when R is less, S by B will be more. The specific surface area is more, that is why they are more interactive. So, if you take big spheres, interaction is less, but when you take small spheres, interaction is large, because the specific surface area for small spheres at nano order length is much more interactive. And that is why you are telling that what is called as that quantum confinement is there very much in nanoscience, right. Quantum confinement. When you are telling quantum confinement, it is never in micro or macro level, it should be in nano level, and that is the reason why the properties of nanomaterials are much more better in comparison to bulk and thin film, because of that quantum confinement, because they are very much interactive, but you should have to understand what kind of interaction is going on, right. Then now this is a measurement of roughness of the surface from the void to matter, how rough the surface is. Then this is the percentage of matter phase, this is the percentage of void phase, and this is the error within limitation or not. One has to check it. If your data are erratic, then obviously this deviation will much more and not acceptable, and it is within the limit, because the limit goes to 0.5. This value should not cross 0.5. If it is crossing 0.5, then data should not be acceptable, right. So, these are the ways by which the structures are evaluated with the help of small angle X-ray scattering. But again, little bit history again, once more I am telling, you see, you cannot believe the small angle X-ray scattering research is started in India. Indian Association for Cultivation of Science, Kolkata, Professor Krishnamurthy in 1930s gives the idea of small angle X-ray scattering. The first idea originated from India, from Cultivation of Science, Jadavpur, Kolkata, and at that time people cannot believe that it will explode in such a big way for the scientific community, right. So, after few years it spread all over the globe, and they flourish like anything. They take the advantage in various ways, but we are lacking behind. We are lacking behind still now. You cannot imagine, in every 3 years there is an international conference on small angle scattering that covers, of course, X-ray scattering, neutron scattering, light scattering. But in every 2 years there is an international conference on small angle X-ray scattering that was held this time in Graz Technical University, where I present my work. In every 2 years, you can imagine now what is the importance of that field of research across the globe, but it was originated from India, and we people are now still not able to solve the problem using that technique across the country. Now, when nano comes, everybody is running after it. Otherwise, people are, I never believed that nanoscience is a new branch, because we did at that time. My PhD were completely depending on nanoscience. My PhD were completely depending on nanoscience. So, why should I believe that nanoscience is a new branch? Not at all. Not at all. It is a very old branch of science, right? Because we have reached at that order length from that time. When the research was started here in 1962, we are in that scale length order, and everything is nanoscience there. But at that time, nanoword is not that popular. Now it is popular. At that time, it called it as colloidal science. Same thing. Colloidal science is nanoscience, but the name was different. Now it is coming as nanoscience. Not that it is a very new branch. It is a very old branch, very, very old. Because the nanoscience basically it covers the length order, and once it is from 1 to 100 nanometer, everything is nanoscience, and the same thing is colloidal science. Right? Once we are telling colloidal science, that dimension goes to 1000 nanometer, 500 angstrom, 100 nanometer. So at that time the name was colloidal science, now it is nanoscience, that is all. Right? So there, anyway, that is the reason why I want to tell, you should have to know why you are learning this subject. What is the importance? Why should you learn? That is why I have shown these slides, just to know, have an idea what is the purpose of learning that subject, right. Then now, okay, stop. Anyway, now you know about the X-ray part and difference between scattering and diffraction, right. Now you know, understand what is the difference between scattering and diffraction or not. So that depends on length scale order of what? Object radiation, right. That will only tell you whether you are in the region of scattering or diffraction, but they are interrelated. You know about the Indian got the Nobel Prize in Chemistry in 2009, Venkataraman Krishnamurthy, to resolve the structure of RNA, right, and it was resolved. The crystallography was resolved in that laboratory where I am collaborating, that is Brookhaven National Laboratory. There it was resolved with the help of the synchrotron facility, and he is now in Cambridge. And see, imagine, he is a man, he do physics MSc, physics PhD, chemistry MSc, chemistry PhD, life science MSc, life science PhD in US, everything is in US. He did his graduation in physics honors from Pune University. Then after that, with his parents, he left India and did everything there and got the Nobel Prize after 54 years. You can imagine the patience. He did not do any job, right. He did not do any job and got the Nobel Prize in the year of 54. I told now, he covered almost all the branches of science, physics, chemistry, life science, and he got the Nobel Prize relevant to medical science, right. That is why he got the Nobel Prize. Although it is told as chemistry, but really it is medicine, because protein structure, it is relevant to structure of protein. So you should not be restricted yourself that I am learning physics. Better to tell I am learning science. It will give you much more enthusiasm, so that you can understand the whole world, right. Never restrict yourself that I am learning physics, I should have to know only physics. Never restrict. So then the question is now, you know the difference between scattering and diffraction, right. When you are telling scattering, the dimension of the object must be small enough in comparison to wavelength, right. So when if let us say I am telling this is the nucleus having positive charge and here is the electron cloud, right. It is 3 dimension, actually I am showing the orbit, but really it is orbital, right. When it is 3 dimension orbital, when representing in 2 dimensions you are telling it is orbit, right. So, when the let us say for example, I am telling an X-ray photon of wavelength 1.54 angstrom or 0.154 nanometer. Let this photon is coming and interacting with this atom. One photon, many photons may come, but I am considering only one for better understanding. So, when this photon is coming and interacting with an atom, then what may happen? What may happen? What you are expecting? It may happen that it may pass through because there is an empty space, large enough space within the atom, or it may interact with the electron, collision, right. Two things may happen, either it will pass through the atom, through the empty space available, or it may interact with the electron, right. If it will interact with the electron, electron is charged particle getting energy, it will start to oscillate and hence the radiations are going out, and that is scattering, because the dimension of the electron is much smaller in comparison to this wavelength, right. That is why it is scattering, and it goes in all possible directions, and like that many electrons are there and all will scatter, all will scatter. So, now think about the superposition of those scattered radiations coming from all the electrons present in the atom. What will happen there? There is constructive interference, destructive interference, right. So, ultimately you will get in some direction there is intensity, in some other direction there is no intensity, and now this is the diffraction pattern, right. So, the electron scatters, but the atom diffracts, that is the difference. The electron scatters the same photon, but the atom diffracts the same photon, and only the dimension is the parameter. This lambda is comparable to d, and the atomic dimension, that is 1 angstrom, right. It is comparable, the order is comparable, that is why it is diffraction. But when you come to electron, it is very small, lambda is extremely large, lambda is extremely large in comparison to the dimension, because electron dimension is very small in comparison to the wavelength used, that is why it scatters. But when all will scatter, they will superimpose, ultimately you are getting the diffraction, because the dimension of atom is 1 angstrom and this is also about 1 angstrom. So, that diffracts, because this is satisfied, but with electron it scatters. So, without scattering, then how you are expecting the diffraction? It should not. That is the reason why diffraction is defined as the phase relationship among the scattered radiations, the phase relationship among the scattered radiations. So, that is the difference basically. Then next time we will start from the production part of X-ray and relevant properties.